Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel where we uncover the untold stories of history's greatest figures. Today we're diving into the early life of Prophet Muhammad. Imagine this, a young boy, alone in the harsh streets of Mecca, surrounded by friends who weren't always friendly. This is the story of resilience, dignity, and the quiet strength that shaped a legacy. Let's begin. A young boy, Muhammad, herding sheep under the scorching sun, his tattered clothes fluttering in the wind. It's the late 570s in Mecca, a city of stark contrasts. On one hand, it's a thriving crossroads of trade, where caravans groan under the weight of spices, silk, and gold, their dust trails painting the horizon. On the other, it's a brutal place where the weak are trampled, the poor are invisible, and survival demands grit. For young Muhammad ibn Abdullah, life was a crucible from the start. Born into the Banu Hashim clan, a respected but threadbare branch of the Quraysh tribe, his story began with a void. His father, Abdullah, died before Muhammad ever saw the light of day, leaving his mother, Amina, to face a merciless world alone with her newborn son. By 6, tragedy struck again. On a journey from Medina back to Mecca, Amina fell ill. Muhammad watched helplessly as her strength faded under the relentless sun. She died beside a dusty road, her final words a whispered prayer for her son's safety. Orphaned and alone, Muhammad was left in a society where lineage was everything, and he had no one to shield him. His grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, a towering figure of dignity among the Quraysh, took him in. For 2 fleeting years, Muhammad found solace in his grandfather's shadow, listening to tales of honor and justice by the Kaaba's flickering firelight. But fate wasn't done testing him. At 8, Abdul Muttalib passed away, his death leaving Muhammad vulnerable once more. His uncle, Abu Talib, became his guardian. Abu Talib was a man of heart, but not of means. His home was a chaotic sprawl of cousins, a leaky roof, and a pantry that rarely held enough to feed everyone. Muhammad didn't have the carefree days of childhood other boys enjoyed. No games by the wells, no idle chatter. By 9 or 10, he was thrust into the hills, herding sheep across jagged rocks under a sun that baked the earth to a crisp. His feet bled, his skin cracked, and his hands grew rough from gripping a weathered staff. But the physical strain was only half the battle. The real weight was the isolation. In a city obsessed with wealth and status, Muhammad's poverty was a gaping wound they loved to prod. "Hey, Muhammad!" they'd shout, their voices sharp as thorns. "Where's your gold, Banu Hashim? Did your father bury it with the sand lizards?" Their laughter rang out, cold and cutting. Leading the pack was Zayd ibn Harith, a wiry boy with a cruel streak and a stick he wielded like a scepter. "Look at him, herding like a slave." Zayd sneered. "What's next? Groveling at the Kaaba for scraps." His cronies cackled, kicking dust into Muhammad's face or scattering his sheep just to watch him scramble. One blistering afternoon, Zayd upped the ante. He snatched Muhammad's staff and snapped it over his knee, tossing the pieces into a ravine. "Fetch it, orphan!" he taunted, his gang howling. Muhammad stood there, fists clenched, his flock bleeding in chaos around him. But he didn't strike back. His dark eyes burned with something fiercer than anger, a quiet, unyielding resolve. He retrieved the broken staff, pieced it together with a strip of cloth, and kept working. The boy's laughter faltered, unsettled by his silence. Not everyone was an enemy. Amid the cruelty, a boy named Bilal emerged as an ally. Bilal was no noble either. His family were outsiders, scraping by on the city's fringes, but he had a soul that shone. "Don't listen to them," he'd say, sharing a crust of bread under a scraggly acacia tree. "They mock you because you don't bend like they do." Those moments were rare glimmers of light, a lifeline in the desert of scorn. Bilal's loyalty planted a seed of trust in Muhammad's heart, a bond that would one day echo through history. But the hurdles kept coming. One summer, a drought gripped Mecca, shriveling wells and starving livestock. Abu Talib's meager resources dwindled, and Muhammad's sheep grew thin. Zayd seized the chance to strike again. "Your flocks die, Muhammad," he jeered. "Maybe the gods cursed you too." That night, a sandstorm tore through the hills, scattering half the herd. Muhammad spent hours in the dark, battling howling winds and shifting dunes to find them, his voice hoarse from calling their names. By dawn, He returned with every last one, his face streaked with sand and sweat, but Zayd's taunts only grew louder. As he grew into his teens, Muhammad traded the hills for the markets. He carried heavy sacks of dates, rolls of cloth, and jars of oil. His shoulders knotted from the strain. The taunts followed him there too. "Orphan boy thinks he's a merchant now," some sneered. But something was shifting. His calm demeanor, his refusal to cheat or quarrel, began to turn heads. Customers noticed his honesty, how he never shorted a measure or haggled with deceit. They started calling him Al-Amin, the trustworthy, a name that carried weight in a city rife with trickery. A clique of petty traders, jealous of Muhammad's growing reputation, hatched a plot. One evening, they cornered him in an alley. Their leader, a squat man named Umair, hissing, "You think you're better than us, Al-Amin? We'll see how trustworthy you are when your goods vanish." The next day, a sack of dates Muhammad was tasked to deliver disappeared from Abu Talib's stall. Whispers spread that he'd stolen it himself. For a moment, his honor hung by a thread. But Bilal, ever watchful, had seen Umair's lackey slip away with the sack. He dragged the thief before the market, forcing a confession. The crowd turned on Umair, and Muhammad's name was cleared, stronger than ever. Visuals: Muhammad facing Zayd one last time, a crowd watching. Zayd couldn't resist one final jab. "Hey, Al-Amin, still no camel to your name?" he called, smirking. This time, the crowd didn't laugh. An elderly merchant, his beard white as the desert moon, stepped forward. "He's got more honor in his little finger than you'll ever have, boy," he snapped. Zayd slunk away, his venom spent. Muhammad met his gaze, offered a faint smile, and walked off, his dignity a shield no taunt could pierce. Visuals: Muhammad alone on a hill, then later in the cave of Mount Hira. Those years of trial didn't crush Muhammad. They forged him. Every jeer, every loss, every sandstorm and scheme carved a resilience deep into his bones. As a man, standing in the silence of Mount Hira, those echoes of hardship would return, not as wounds, but as proof of the strength he'd always carried. From the lonely shepherd boy to the trustworthy, his journey was a testament to enduring with grace. And there you have it, the untold saga of a boy who faced taunts, betrayal, and nature's fury, yet rose above it all. Muhammad's early life shows us that true strength isn't loud or vengeful. It's steady, quiet, and unbreakable. What do you think? Could you weather those storms with the same resolve? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more epic tales from history. Until next time, stay resilient, stay true, and keep pushing forward. Peace out.